Well, we are back talking The Lord of the Rings, Episode 3, The Rings of Power. This is the brand new Lord of the Rings show. Hi, my name is Zach. Thank you so much for clicking on this. I'm sure there's many of you already typing down below that you absolutely hate this show and that I'm a shill, because that's what I've been called the last couple of weeks after giving my feedback. But guys, film, TV, it's all subjective, so let's just leave it right there. And thank you so much again for watching this. If you are enjoying this show, I'm very happy to have you here. If you're not enjoying the show and you just plainly, the show is just not for you, that's fine too. I want to see your guys' thoughts down below. And make sure as well to hit that like and subscribe button, because I have a lot of thoughts on episode 3. I think this episode starts to really finite and give us exactly what I'm thinking this show should have done from the start. And I thought it was really much an incredible start to the show, but I like that we're finally focusing in on certain characters and not really worrying about having to hit every single character within every episode. This episode, in a sense, really much just focuses in on our crew at Numenor, as well as some of the Harfoot stuff, which I'm just gonna, for the plain of it, be called Foots. Of course, also focusing in on our crew within that have been enslaved by orcs, and Arondir, who now we finally see what had happened to him. So there's a lot of interesting aspects in here, and I'm really happy that they kind of split it into the 3 ways. That way we can just focus in and talk about each of the 3 and then dive into my final thoughts. So starting out with the Foots himself, and that is the one storyline in the first 2 episodes that I was intrigued with but not loving, and I found to be one of the more slower aspects of the first 2 episodes. And that's totally fine to have a slow burn if you really need to, but there are some interesting developments in there, as of course they are migrating and moving. So what are they to do with this giant mysterious stranger that they have? So like I mentioned last week, every week I want your guys' theories down below on what possibly this character is. And last week I said I was going to take my favorite theory and put it into this one. Now I'm going to continue that, so if you have more theories, let me know. But I saw someone put a Balrog, and if that's true, I actually find that to be great. Now again, as Tolkien, I have really only read the books once. I'm not versed completely in it. I'm very novice. And when it comes down to the Lord of the Rings franchise, I just really want a great fantasy show. So don't expect me to know every single thing that needs to happen in the Lord of the Rings world or even in Tolkien itself. But that is my viewpoint. I'm very, very excited to see that, and I'm really liking that. But that theory is actually really good, and I like it, because I don't think it's some of the other things that a lot of us are expecting, but that feels to be something true. With the fire, with the magic, with certain things like that, this could be like the origin of it. And again, I don't know any of that stuff, and I'm sure pure hard, diehard Tolkien fans will probably correct me down in the comment section, so please do, so I can hear your guys' thoughts. Who do you guys think the stranger is? Let me know. But that storyline was interesting, because of course the whole entire crew of them find out about the stranger, and they tell them that they're in the back of the caravan, which gets you a little bit worried, because that means they're going to be put behind. The father is injured. How are they to move forward? And I was really happy to see that the stranger is helping them push and make it forward. So I'm curious to see how they accept this character. And it also, if true that this is a Balrog, I have a feeling that this entire group of people could be completely wiped out at one point, or at least a lot of them. We could see some numbers on them. So, but interesting development. I'm curious to see where that goes, because every single storyline, at least, that we see, while might be going towards the main ultimatum, it all seems like there's this despair building in each of these scenarios. Whether it's just like a ticking time bomb waiting to go off, that's exactly what I'm feeling right now, and I'm really digging that feeling. Because let's go over to Arondir now, who, again, I'm probably mispronouncing his name. Very, very sorry about that. But Ismael Cordova is absolutely phenomenal in this role. I am really digging him. And, of course, seeing that now he's in this orc kind of camp and everything of that nature is very interesting to see how, you know, he's being enslaved there. And all these other people are in. The revolt and bringing back to life. Getting that action in here was everything. That just goes as far to show how great the action is for this show, and the way that they're actually able to develop it. Because when he jumped up and smacked down that whole cover and all the orcs started getting the sun beating on them, it was fantastic. And that whole revolt and building up to there, and actually even seeing, you know, while we didn't get to learn a lot about the characters in there, you start to really care about them. In fact, to the point where you think that one escapes and he goes to look and he gets shot with the arrows, and it just brings, again, that sense of despair. That's one of the things that I feel like the Lord of the Rings has always done so well, whether it's in the movies, the books, and now this show, is that it's always about hope and despair. Like, those are the two biggest feelings that I've always felt when inviting myself to Middle-earth. And whether it's the villains that we face, the heroes that we journey, there's always that sense going around. And in this episode, you really feel the balance and the pull and push of it all. Specifically with Galadriel in this episode, as we head to Numenor with, of course, her and this other guy that she washed up on shore with, and of course the captain and everyone in Numenor and how they relate to it. Numenor is a place that I'm very fascinated with. In fact, after I was done watching the episode, I started looking at every single aspect of this entire episode and going, okay, that's really cool. Okay, that's really cool. And diving into actually the little bit of lore to it all that Tolkien had set up, and this is kind of a new ground that we are breaking when it comes down to the world of Middle-earth, and how Numenor is this complete extravagant land away from it that the elves had given to the humans for helping them, which is interesting. And this is just a land that's different. And now this guy she washed up with, there's a little bit more that meets the eyes with him. We also find out that, you know, the king was actually in the favors of the elves here. So this adds a new dynamic to Galadriel and how she wants to bring about that. And in general, while Galadriel wanted to get off that island, it turns out in the end of the day, this island was more important than anything that she could have gone to, because this is exactly where she needed to be. And you can call that destiny, and it's true destiny for what this journey needed to be. And I overall loved that Galadriel got that entire moment. And I think, again, it adds to the levity of maybe this journey needs to be here for a bit. And Galadriel needs to learn that it's okay to wield back and come back to that. Because when we look at Galadriel and where we know that she goes to when it comes down to the Lord of the Rings, it's very much a different character at times right there. But the one thing that I will say about that is I feel like we're learning her origins to a certain extent to where we see a wiser, more older Galadriel down in the future, and I'm happy to see this younger version of her who's learning these more wiser elements to it all. And again, this entire island of Numenor is really beautiful, touching, and that just goes to the entire production design. And I didn't talk about this enough, but the orcs are scary. I think they did a really good job bringing them to life in this entire series, and that's something I didn't mention in my full review last week, and I needed to mention right now because they are a big standout of this entire episode. And again, seeing the action was great, but Numenor is the big standout for me within episode 3. It brings to life this island, it brings these characters to life, introducing new characters, introducing new dynamics, and giving us a new dynamic to this random sailor that she washed up ashore with and got saved with. And there's something more to him that we can see. Like, the second that guy got punched, I'm like, this dude's gonna jump back up and kick the shit out of these guys. And he did. He killed him. And that is where this entire arc begins. And that's where the Rings of Power is. It's a lot of setup still. And that's where I'm starting to go. You know, we got the first 2 episodes. There was a lot of setup in there. So I was like, cool, we're building into the story. And we got to remember it's a show. And it is going to be a slow burn. And for me, I'm liking it a lot. I think it's an incredible start. There's no denying the cinematography and the production design or anything like that. And again, I can't speak to pure diehard Tolkien fans. If you are angry with the show, that is completely okay. I get your sentiment. But you also understand that as a novice, I'm just really wanting a good fantasy show, and that's what I'm getting here. I don't think the storytelling here is as great as House of the Dragons is, but I also think House of the Dragons has the added bonus of knowing that they're doing time skips, that they don't have to take their time. But when we look at the first season of Game of Thrones, it was bouncing around everywhere. And I'm not saying this is as great as the first season of Game of Thrones, but it very much feels that way. But in the same way, it feels very light of course, Lord of the Rings. And that's something that I'm really digging. Now, it's hard to judge an entire television series without seeing the full picture of all 8 episodes. So I am reserving a lot more of my judgment until we get to the final episode. I'm going to review my thoughts on this. I really like this episode. This kind of felt a little bit more slower, besides even having that action sequence, than the rest of the 2 episodes that we've already seen. This is probably my least favorite out of the entire show so far, but I'm still very invested and excited for next week. And I can't wait to have you guys along with me every single week. So make sure, again, hit that like and subscribe button. Comment down below your guys' thoughts. Who do you guys think the stranger is? What did you think of this episode? And of course, until next time, everybody, stay classy.